Watching Kody and Robyn try to do their image rehabilitation tour is not only becoming sickening, and frankly, it feels like I'm losing brain cells as I watch these two brainiacs sit there and try to have these deep conversations about religion, faith, so on and so forth. But it just bothers me to the core because as they're sitting there talking about it, everybody is sitting there pretending as though Kody is some kind of authority on religious matters. Dude, you were on a show to demonstrate the alternative lifestyle of you being a polygamist, a member of a polygamous faith and church, and living your lifestyle, alternative lifestyle, in a form of multiple marriages. And you failed at that. There's not a religious context. In fact, this show, even though you used religion as a reason as to why you engaged in this particular activity, there wasn't ever a religious component to this show. You said that religion was important to you. All of you said at some point that your religion and your faith was important to you and it was a main driver as to why you were doing what you were doing, but we never got into the specifics of your religion. At the end of the day, I don't recognize your authority. I don't recognize your superiority. And frankly, I think that it's ridiculous that as a failed member of one faith that you think you can go to another faith and sit there in judgment of that faith while you're sitting in their building. Let's take a quick listen to what Kody and Robyn had to say as they were sitting there having this discussion about religion and how Kody would interpret the preacher standing there delivering his message in his church, and how Kody would become an obstacle not only for his kids, but possibly and potentially for the people who are sitting in the congregation.
You would be the type to go like,
I already know. I'm going to hold my scriptures on my lap, and that preacher's going to be saying something. I'm going to be looking for whether he's right or if he's wrong.
And everybody in the room is going to know whether or not you agree.
You see how proud he is of himself? I'm going to be sitting in the front row with my book in my lap, and I'm going to be determining for everybody in the church whether the preacher man is right or he's wrong. And Robyn is sitting there like the jackass that she is. Oh, Kody, you're going to have such valuable insight that everybody in the church is going to look to him, not the preacher, not the pastor, not the member of the church, not the person standing in the pulpit. People are going to look to Kody, who is sitting in the audience, for guidance and instruction as to whether their religion is in fact valid. This makes no sense to me. How dare you go into another church and try to criticize that church? You don't see me showing up to the AUB services and sitting there saying, look, you believe in space Jesus, so therefore your whole religion concept is wrong. That would be ignorant on my part. I would sit in your services and listen to what you had to say and listen to your perspective to try to get an understanding of where you're coming from. That's how you go and visit another church. It's not you trying to impose your faith on them. It's you trying to understand where they're coming from, so that if necessary, after the services, you could maybe walk up to the preacher, or you could set an appointment with the pastor or somebody in the church, an elder within the church, and sit down and have a conversation to be able to discuss things that maybe spike your interest, or things that you find curious, or questions that you have to get those things answered. You don't go into church and think that you're going to come in and take things over. That's not a way that you enter into any faith or any organization for that matter. Imagine a guy start a job on his first day and he tells his boss or supervisor that by the end of the day, I'm going to be your boss and I'm here to tell you what you're doing wrong. The guy training you, you're going to tell him how to do his job and how to do the job better. You're going to go from employed to unemployed fast as hell. That's the first thing. The second thing, oh, everybody in the church is going to be watching you, Kody. Yeah, they're going to be watching you because you come from a faith that you yourself describe as a cult. You come from a cult, and you want to sit there and start trying to tell people what's what in that congregation. Yeah, they're going to be watching you because you're the freak culty dude who's showing up trying to convince their daughters to join your cult ass religion. So yeah, they're probably going to watch you. And as crazy as it is, even some religious folks judge people. So you can expect to be judged when you're sitting there judging them. Some of them are going to be sitting there judging you. So don't get mad at them when they start judging you the same way you're judging them. The ironic part is is you're going to judge them based on the scripture in your lap, and they're going to judge you based on their interpretation of the scripture in their lap. There's also another point where Kody sits there and talks about his struggles within the AUB church and why he left the AUB church. And I thought that this was very interesting. Let's take a listen.
I found that my faith started to contradict the religionist attitudes, sort of the gatekeepers. My church was trying to put me in kind of a teaching leadership position. They saw my hair as rebellious. So, Kody, you need to cut your hair. Don't tell me to do things that aren't required by the law or by God.
Now, let's take this from the beginning. Kody started to say that he started to rebel against the elders in his church and the teachings and practices of his church because he found some of those things offensive. What were the things that he found offensive? The fact that women were being taken advantage of, the fact that kids who were brought into these families were being neglected and in some cases mistreated and not treated properly? Are we talking about situations where families have been dooming themselves to generational poverty and exposing themselves to generational curses because of their involvement within the church and the damage that those teachings brought about to the family and his personal interpretation? No. What we're talking about is that according to him, the elders within the church didn't like his haircut. And that was enough for him to break away from the church. Not the fact that they're mistreating all these ladies. Not the fact that all these women's lives are being ruined, these kids' lives are being ruined. And let's be honest, as Benjamin, the Fish King said, even the men, their lives are being ruined because they're trying to live up to a standard which is unattainable by having 4 or 5 women who they're responsible for, and then they're going to have children with those women whom they can't tend or take care of, and then they're supposed to live their life basically as a tool for these ladies to be able to survive, and they can't possibly do it. So everybody in this situation suffers. But that's not why Kody left. Kody left because he wanted to keep and maintain a hairstyle. That's why he left the church, according to him. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I said this in the live right after the show aired or this episode aired. The reason why the elders may have come to him and said, Kody, you need to cut your hair, is because pride goeth before the fall. If you are so prideful that you're only concerned with yourself and they see that that hair is a source of vanity and you put that hair above everybody else and your look above everybody else and your personal wealth above everybody else, then how could you possibly be responsible or given the task of leading other people? If you only put yourself first and you only consider yourself at all, how could you ever be a leader? The whole responsibility and job of leadership is tending to the flock. If you are a shepherd, your job is to tend to the flock, not make sure that you're safe, not make sure that you're comfortable, not make sure that you get everything you want, but your job is to tend to the flock, the people who are following you. And they may have seen that Kody's desire to be sexually attractive, his desire to maintain himself in a certain way, precedes even his desire to take care of his family. Season 1, episode 1, you're driving around in a luxury 2-seater car and your wives and your kids are riding around in cars where the motors are blowing up, the windows are being held up by tape. Then you got them riding to different states on baloney skin tires, having blowouts every time you turn around. But you driving in your luxury car and looking good in your luxury car is more important than even your family. So yeah, they might ask you to cut your hair if they ask you to take a leadership position within the church. When I hear Kody talking about his experience within the church and why he was suffering, it kind of reminded me of the Last Resort 90 Day Fiancé Stacy when she sat there and said this.
I don't want it anymore. You take it from me. I want to be free. I want to be free.
All because they asked you to cut your hair. And even as we talk about it, you're sitting there saying, oh, I couldn't be a part of this church because they asked me to cut my hair. Meanwhile, when we talk about the pursuit of earthly wealth, we talk about the pursuit of earthly material things. and your obsession with these things. You can't sit there and judge a man or a woman who's standing in front of a church and preaching to their congregation, and you're sitting in judgment as you're pursuing money and earthly and worldly possessions at all costs. You're ripping off your family, people who trusted you, the very people who you were tasked with leading. You were stealing from them. Let's remember what Kody had to say when he was sitting there with Mary and they were trying to rip Kody Pass away from Mary and Janelle after they successfully ripped Kody Pass away from Christine.
I said, do you want to do a appraisal, or are you happy with your 4 acres and Mary and I splitting the other 6 acres? She says, I'm fine with that. I think that's fair. You guys got the woods, so it'd be 3 acres each, basically.
I still think it would be a really wise idea. I want to know for me, because I think it would be fair for all 4 of us to know really like what the lots are worth.
Oh, shit! What bothers me the most about this entire thing is that Kody will sit there and pretend as though he's this sanctified soul who's just merely trying to make the most of this, his mortal coil and his mortal shuffle throughout life. And these other people are somehow coming down on him and he's misunderstood. You, sir, are a false prophet. You're what they warn about in Revelations, not because you were the member of a culty religion, which we could have a conversation about that if you like. But it's not just that. It's your application. You're the kind of person who turns people away from religion because you do shifty shit like you've been doing with these ladies. You can't sit there and talk about how sanctified you are and how religiously appropriate you are and how you're situated in a way that you understand the scripture and the Bible, but you go about doing the devil's work. It's not so much that the Bible, or at least in my interpretation, the Bible or religion or faith talks about or condemns the pursuit of wealth. There's nothing that says you can't be wealthy in the Bible. The problem that you have isn't the pursuit of money, it's the love of money. When you love money so much that it overrides everything that you have going on, that you will sit there, rip, rob, steal, kill, thrill, do whatever you need to do to anybody around you so that you can get what you want out of a situation. That becomes problematic. And that's what I see in Kody. Because we can sit there and talk about him trying to teach the girls how to pursue a more prosperous faith and a deeper religion and have a deeper connection with God. But then at the same time, I'm watching Kody rip off women who spent 30 years plus of their lives, plus their life savings that they've invested in him, plus their weekly check that they get from TLC, takes that money and he doesn't give them any recourse, any consideration. He sits there and tries to make himself comfortable. And when I look at that, I don't see the face of somebody who's making sacrifices for his flock. I see the spoiled child king who is trying to make his life better at the expense of the people who are supposed to be following him, at the expense of the people who are relying on him, at the expense of his very soul. Let me know what you guys think down below. This is a little voiceover experimentation I'm doing. Let me know if you guys like it, you love it. If you don't like it, leave your comments down below. Leave me your take. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this particular topic. This is My Take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out.
'Cause I've been living life